In this video, we're going to look at how to solve an absolute value equation. And we'll look at the case where you have one absolute value and where you have two absolute value. So here's the definition. Absolute value of a quantity x is equal to x. If x is greater than or equal to 0, it's equal to minus x if x is less than 0. So this is really suggesting that if you compute the absolute value of any number or expression, that value will always be either positive or 0, but never negative. So you might ask, well, this x has a negative in front of it, so it has to be negative. Okay? But remember saying that x is less than 0. So if x is less than 0 or negative, you put a negative in front of it or multiply it by a negative 1, it's positive. Okay? So we'll look at the first one here. We have the absolute value of x minus 7 is equal to 8. So the procedure basically then is if you have one absolute value is to isolate it. So here I'm going to add 7 to both sides. So if I do that, adding 7 to both sides gives me the absolute value of x is equal to 15. Okay. So in this particular case then, if the absolute value of x, or if x is greater than or equal to 0, the absolute value of x is equal to x. So we have the scenario then where x then will equal to 15. Okay. So we're looking at the case. If x is greater than or equal to 0, then the absolute value of x is just x. And then the other case is, well, what happens if x is less than 0? If x is less than 0, then the absolute value of x would be minus x. So in this case, I will get negative 15 is equal to 15. Or negative x, rather, is equal to 15. Okay, multiply both sides by negative 1. We'll get x is equal to negative 15. So your solution then is x equal 15, or x can equal to negative 15. Okay? And you can see the case here. If you want to check it, the absolute value of 15 over here in the original equation is 15. 15 minus 7 is equal to 8. That's the check. You put a negative 15 where the x is. The absolute value of negative 15 is 15. 15 minus 7 is equal to 8. That checks. Okay, so very basic. I did a video earlier in this channel using the TI-89. Well, here I'm doing it without the calculator. It's just basically just using the definition of a absolute value. Look at the next one here. The absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to negative 4. Now here we don't really have to do anything because by the definition we already said that if you compute the absolute value of any expression or any number, that is always, by definition, that is always going to be either a number that's greater than or equal to 0, but never negative. So this is a contradiction. Okay, so this one has no solution, or the solution set is the empty set. Look at this. Okay, so again, you have one absolute value in the equation, isolate it, and then just apply the definition. Now in this particular case, I have two absolute values. Okay, so we're looking at the case where they're both isolated. Okay, so the easiest way to approach this type of problem is just to say, well, it could be that 2x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 0, so the absolute value then would be 2x minus 3. Or 2x minus 3 could be negative, so the absolute value would be the negative of that, or 2x minus 3 multiplied by negative. And then we look at the other side. absolute value of x plus 3. If x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 0, the absolute value is x plus 3. If x plus 3 turns out to be a negative number, the absolute value is the opposite of that, or the negative of x plus 3. So we break it up this way. Okay, so here is the case where they're both positive. So if 2x minus 3 represents a positive number and x plus 3 represents a positive number, then the absolute value is 2x minus 3 on the left, x plus 3 on the right. Okay. Now, what happens if they're both negative? Say 2x minus 3 represents a negative number, x plus 3 represents a negative number. Then the absolute value of 2x minus 3 is the opposite here, minus 2x minus 3. And if x plus 3 is negative, then the absolute value of that is minus x plus 3, or x plus 3 multiplied by a negative. Okay. Now, what's the other scenario? Okay, it could be that one is positive and the other one is negative. So let's suppose that 2x minus 3 is negative. Then the absolute value over here, the next one, is negative 2x minus 3, or negative 1 times 2x minus 3. Okay, and let's say x plus 3 is positive, then the absolute value of x plus 3 is x plus 3. You get this scenario right here. Okay, now let's suppose it's the other way around. Let's suppose 2x minus 3 is positive, then the absolute value is 2x minus 3. And if x plus 3 is negative, then the absolute value of x plus 3 over here is minus, in parentheses, x plus 3. Okay, so notice here, you got a negative here and a negative here, so these cancel out. These cancel out. So what does that leave you? It leaves you 2x minus 3 is equal to x plus 3, but that's the same thing as this one. Okay, so we could just solve this one right here, and then just ignore this one. Okay, now over here, we have this right here, and this right over here. So what happens if I multiply this equation, if I multiply both sides of this equation here, right here, by negative, what do I get? Well, multiplying by negative 1, this becomes a positive, so I get this. Okay, multiply this by negative, I get this. Okay, so that means then those are basically the same. Those two cases represent the same scenario. So we could ignore one and solve the other one. Doesn't matter which one. So I'm just going to take over here, look at this one first. Let's solve this one. Let's subtract x from both sides here. Then I get x. Okay, subtracting x from both sides. I get x, and then let's add 3 to both sides to isolate the x. Then we get x equals 6. Okay, so x equal to 6 could be one solution. Okay, you can see if I plug it in, if I plug x equals 6 over here, 6 times 2 is 12, minus 3 is 9, absolute value of 9 is 9. Put a 6 there, 6 and 3 is 9, absolute value of 9 is 9, so I get 9 equals to 9. It checks. Okay, so again, here I can take either one. It's the same equation. So let's take this one here and say, okay, we got 2x minus 3 is equal to, multiplying by minus 1 there, that becomes a minus x and a minus 3. Okay, and then we solve. Add x to both sides here, cancels this one here, and this one gives me a 3x over here. Negative minus 3 and a minus 3. I can take this one over, to makes it a plus 3, and a minus 3 gives me 0. So I get 3x is equal to 0. Divide both sides by 3. 3 into 0 is 0. 3 into 3 is 1, or 1x. So I get x is equal to 0. Okay, so these are my two solutions. Okay, and you can check it over here. Put a 0 where the x is. I get over here on the left, I get the absolute value of -3 is 3. And I put a 0 on the right side over here. 0 and 3 is 3. Absolute value of 3 is 3. 3 equal to 3. That checks. Okay, so these are the basic scenarios you can have. There's others that are more complicated where you have to consider more cases. But for right now, this is going to conclude the video. I will look at some more problems involving absolute values, say absolute values in inequalities, and some other videos coming up on this channel, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.